Hey, Sister Power Hustlers, it's Michelle Talbert, and we are here talking financial planning, careers in financial planning. It's all about the money march. It's money making march. It's money. It's march. It's march. It's money. Let's do this. Her Power Hustle, episode 7. Let's go.
Welcome to the Her Power Hustle podcast, where mentor or receive the guidance and advice they need. That ends here today. Her Power Hustle is the power resource for women entrepreneurs like you. So whether you're hustling full-time, side hustling, or gearing up to hustle, get ready for a conversation packed with the information and tools you need to hustle on.
Hey, Sister Power Hustlers. Thank you so much for joining for another episode of Her Power Hustle podcast. We are all about women entrepreneurs, success, inspiration, motivation, perspiration, because we got to put in the work. And I think today is a show that actually made me perspire because we're talking about financial planning. And if I'm honest, and I am honest, that's a struggle for me that I'm thinking through finances and staying on top of receipts and all of those pieces that make your business profitable are really important. And then thinking through what are we doing with the money that we're making. So today's episode is really near and dear to my heart. We're not going to have a power boost today. We're not going to have a whole lot of fluff because we have two amazing speakers, two amazing guests, Jacquette Timmons and Jocelyn D. Wright, and I want you to hear from them. You'll hear from them in succession. Jocelyn first, and then Jacquette. And they discuss really great information about careers and financial planning, our relationships with money, what's prompted them to pursue careers in financial planning. And these sisters are really, really awesome and have their stuff together and will help us get our stuff together. And if our stuff is already together, help us keep it together. Also, we have a special offer from Jocelyn at the end of her interview, which you'll hear, which is very exciting because we are all about the money march this month. For the rest of the month of March and up through April 15th, we are doing a huge giveaway. First of all, we have paired with Dr. Miracle's hair care products, and they are giving 10 lucky Her Power Hustle listeners free products throughout the month of March up through April 15th. So we also have a grand prize basket of packed with goodies, including some Dr. Miracle's hair care products, a Her Power Hustle t-shirt, as well as the surprise that Jocelyn will be announcing at the end of her interview. And to be eligible for all of these amazing gifts, which we will be giving away on a weekly basis and announcing winners, all you have to do is head on over to herpowerhustle.com/iTunes. If you're already listening in iTunes, you just need to click the review button, give us a rating, an honest rating, and an honest review, and then take a picture of your review right before you press send, because sometimes they don't show up in iTunes, believe it or not, or it takes a few days at least. And we want to make sure that you get entered for this giveaway ASAP. Then just send a picture of your review to Michelle at herpowerhustle.com, and each week I will be reading a review or reading some of the reviews on air so you can hear what other folks are saying. But more importantly, one of you will be eligible for a Her Power Hustle t-shirt each week as well. So when you send along your screenshot, be sure to say your name and let me know what your name is. And I'm looking forward to just really getting to know you more about you and what you think of the show and what issues, challenges that you may be facing at this point in your journey of entrepreneurship. So without further ado, we're getting right into the interviews. Again, you will hear from Jocelyn, and then you will hear from Jacquette, and then we will wrap up the show and we will move on. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Her Power Hustle. This is Michelle Talbert, and I am just so delighted that you have joined us today as part of our month of money for March. We have an amazing guest with us today. Jocelyn D. Wright is the founder and managing partner of Ascension Wealth Management and is the State Farm Chair for Women and Financial Services and Assistant Professor of Women's Studies at the American College. With nearly 20, and we just talked, it's really close to 20 years of financial services experience. She holds the Certified Financial Planner designation, along with numerous other certifications. She graduated with honors from Howard University with an MBA in finance and received her bachelor's in business administration from the University of Delaware. She has been a featured financial expert in various publications, including Black Enterprise. Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining us at Her Power Hustle today. How are you?
I am doing well and very pleased to be with you.
Oh, so excited to have you. I mean, March is the month of money. And every day, I'm sure as a financial planner, you would say every month should be the month of money.
Exactly. Money 365. And leap years.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Get that extra day in there to save.
Right.
But, we wanted to talk with you because, number one, your expertise and your resume obviously is stellar. But what led you to financial planning? I'm always curious to what leads people to where they end up and where their passions lie. How did you find out your passion was financial planning?
Well, it really started as a young child. Growing up, of course, growing up in the 70s when board games were very popular, and I always wanted to be the banker. So whether it was the Game of Life, Monopoly, all those games, any game that involved money, I wanted to be in control of it so that I was able to count it, organize it properly, and my sisters will laugh because I used to walk around the house with this old, I won't say old, a white pocketbook where I would save receipts that my parents left around and, just organize them. And whenever my father would leave money on the dresser, I was immediately drawn to it, and I would count it, make sure that it was organized in the right way, the ones were lined up, the fives, the tens, everything. So that was my thing from a very young age. And then growing up, I thought, well, maybe I'll just go into banking. And it really was not until I was a sophomore in college at the University of Delaware when my father's mother passed away. And that's when, as a result of finding out that she had, one of those life insurance policies where they were the debit policies where the agent would come around and collect the premium, but it really was only $5,000. And to see my father and his siblings, have to, call a meeting to determine, all right, we need to get the money that's necessary to, lay grandma to rest. And for me as a student, still, old enough to know what was going on, and then just realize, well, why is this happening? We had an intelligent family, and I saw no reason why something like that should have happened in our family. And that's really when the light bulb went off for me to say, you know what, I know this happened in my family, but it should not happen in any other. So really from that point on, the personal financial planning side is when I really was interested and started, just reading more about it, learning more about it. And besides the fact that I worked in credit card customer service and collections through college. So I was very much aware of, the piece and seeing other college students get in trouble with credit cards and overspending and different things like that. So the combination of the two really put me on track for being a financial advisor.
Wow. It's funny that you should say that because it seems to hold true when you speak with people about their passions. A lot of people say your passion often comes from your pain. And that is definitely, those are two touchstone points that you could say those are painful moments, credit card debt of friends and other college students, and then the passing and seeing your grandmother having paid into this account for all those years and there not really be enough to even cover her final expenses is gut-wrenching. So why is financial planning important then? I feel like you touched on this as well, in your story. But why is it important? And I guess specifically for women entrepreneurs, why is it important to have a financial plan in place?
Well, it's important because it's very difficult to operate without one. So, it's really a guide. It's not anything that is concrete and set in stone. It changes all of the time as life happens, but it really helps to put us in a track and keep us focused. So just as I like to I'm a runner, so I like to equate a lot of the things that I do from a financial standpoint now with fitness, health and fitness. So just as you have a nutrition plan or a workout plan, it keeps you on track. So specifically for entrepreneurs, because you're not only dealing with the finances of the business, it also, in many cases, is very connected with your personal finances. So if one or the other is off kilter, that's going to impact the whole picture. So you really need to take the time and commit the time, because just like with, training your body, you're training your finances. So it's not a one and done. You're doing this for the duration in order for you to be able to maintain that financial muscle mass, if you will, and keep in financial shape throughout the course of your life and your business.
Well, you saying that is interesting, because I wanted to ask you about people who are not folks who grew up wanting to arrange money and make it, neat and orderly. There are people who almost are afraid of money, or, just don't feel like they can get it right, or don't have a handle on it. And so, number one, what do you say to those folks? But number two, you just said it's an ongoing process, which can sometimes even make them more fearful to say, oh my gosh, I have to not only get control of it, but stay on top of it. How do you help people sort of make that elephant into little bites? How do you help them through those fears?
You have to take the stress out of it. And I say to all of my clients and prospective clients that I come with no judgment, because I've seen it all, whether I've seen it with a client or been through it myself. So when many times people say, oh, well, you're a financial advisor, so, you have an 800 credit score and everything's in order. No, that's not the case. I have struggles just like anyone. So, and certainly as a business owner, you go through difficult times. So when I, kind of put them at ease and letting them know that I'm just here to help where you are. So, of course, we're going to deal with what's happened in the past. And just as you said, your career comes out of your pain. A lot of people's money personality and how they deal with money come out of how they were raised, or if there were certain triggering situations as they were growing up that led them to either, hoard money or, pour through money. So you have to really identify what their relationship with money, where that's coming from, and then begin to deal with it in the proper way to move forward and set a plan in place and to get them on track.
That makes absolute sense. Absolutely. And that calms some of my own personal fears. I may be giving you a call.
Like I said, it's definitely a no judgment zone. And so if you're ready, as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When those things line up, it's good. It's a good thing.
Okay, so, a lot of folks, especially women and women of color who go into certain fields, may not have had those professions modeled for them. So I don't know if either of your parents or anyone in your circle was a banker or a financial planner. You said you came to financial planning actually once you were already in college. But, how did you know, what do you say to folks who don't have role models who are financial planners and want to become financial planners?
I would say go out and find individuals that are doing it. So our profession has not done a very good job of welcoming not only women, but new people into the business. So as a whole, the demographics of the business are largely older white men. And so for people who've come in after them, it's because, they bring in a relative or a close friend. And as you said, particularly in our communities, we don't have a lot of that. So we're really starting from the beginning. And, just find someone that's doing it. Now with the age of social media, you can, go online and get connected with folks, find professional organizations, and get involved with them. There are some that are specific for women in the industry, and then the broader industry. So I'm not saying, as a woman, you should only, network with female advisors, because that would, not serve you very well. But get involved in those organizations and find a mentor and team up with someone who is willing and gets it and realizes the importance of bringing not only women but younger people into this business. Because if we don't take care of that, at some point we're going to age ourselves out of the business, and that's not a good thing for us as business owners if we don't have a succession plan, and then that's not good for the clients and the people who would need and utilize our services.
And so for folks who are looking to become financial planners, are there better ways to go about it? Are there certain courses that they should take? I notice you have a lot of certifications and designations, and are, is that the typical route that you see, that folks get so many certifications?
In some cases, I think those who, we realize, and I realized early on that this is really lifelong learning. You will never know, I will never know everything. So it's really just a matter of, refining, sharpening my saw and making sure that I'm on top of what's going on in the industry, because laws change, whether it's a tax law or some legal law, you want to be on top of that to be able to provide the best possible service for your clients. And then knowing when, okay, this is out of my wheelhouse, I need to refer you to another professional who might be in my network that will be able to take the next leg of this. And the good thing is, when I first, in 92, when I graduated, there were no courses, particularly at the University of Delaware, as it relates to financial planning. But now we see even a lot of undergraduate courses where you can actually get a designation or a degree in financial planning, whether it's undergrad, master's, and even at the American College, we now have a PhD program in retirement income planning. So the industry and the education in the industry has changed dramatically. And a lot of people's research has shown that those individuals who have either the advanced degrees or the designations, it actually does, they have better business. It's been very helpful in their business, because it begins to separate you from, anyone can put up, a sign that says I'm a financial advisor or financial planner, because there's not really any overall regulation. And so we certainly encourage people to ask, well, what is your education? What are your designations or certifications, just so you know. And then when you have those, then people are able to track to see if there have been any complaints or issues, because we go through, just like with a business, it's like our Better Business Bureau, where you can go online and see what the history has been for an advisor. And you really want that, because particularly in situations where, it doesn't happen very often, but whenever something happens negatively in the business, that gets so much attention and then puts a negative light on those of us, and it's really the majority of us, who are doing the right thing.
Right. Right, and I'm so glad you said that. You actually preempted a question that I had, which was that it seems like a great occupation for an entrepreneurial woman, because you are generally, I'm sure you can work within existing companies like yours, like Ascension, but also you can hang your own shingle. So it seems like there's a lot of autonomy involved, so it's important, it would seem, to be part of a community as well. Have you found that?
Right, and that's one of the things that we are leading on in my role as the chair for the Women's Center at the American College, because in going out and talking to women, whether they're younger women who are new to the industry or even career changers, to talk about those benefits, that you are able to have that flexibility. So if you're raising a family, or, if you're caring for a loved one, particularly if, and I also encourage partnering too, because, two is better than one in most cases if you partner with the right person, and then that will give you even more flexibility, so that you do have the ability to, go to your son's or daughter's, parent-teacher night, or even go on vacation without feeling that you have to be tied to, your smartphone or tablet. Right. So, there is great flexibility in this industry, and I will certainly say that I haven't done a good job historically talking about it, but certainly now that I have this platform with the American College, I always tell women all the time, you should really consider it. And there's so many areas in financial services, so you don't just have to be tied to one area.
Oh, that's great. And see, I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because I think a lot of us don't know this information. And also I have to give a shout out to your partner, as you speak of partnering, Kamari Ellis, who is just an awesome guy, and also has a podcast as well called $1 Million Trek, and it is a phenomenal podcast. If you've not already heard it, we'll have a link on our show notes to that. And our show notes for today are herpowerhustle.com/financial plan. So, really it's important to know that you have a plan, but also if you're interested in becoming a financial planner, it's very important to get really good information so you start off on the right foot. So, Jocelyn, what are some words of wisdom, if you could give, for our folks who are interested in becoming a financial planner, what are some final words of wisdom that you would give them to begin their journey if they're already sort of out and seasoned and in the work field, already working?
I would suggest that they reach out to someone that is in the business and just sit down and have a talk with several individuals, because everyone's experience is going to be different, and see if you can start some, whether it's an internship or something where you're being able to shadow them and really get the day in the life of an advisor. And the great thing about that is no day is the same every day. So I'm one that certainly does not like, repetitive tasks and monotony. So it's great to know that every day is going to be different, and really begin to examine the various aspects of the industry and see where you'd like to fit. Some people, they don't necessarily want to work directly with clients, but they would make a great, back office, or someone who does the financial planning, putting the plans together, working with an advisor. Or, you might like running the numbers. So you're an investment person. You like looking at the markets and figuring out various investment strategies. So it really can accommodate a lot of different personalities and interests. And I think it's really a great business. And I believe it was USA Today just a few weeks ago, they ranked financial advisor as one of the top 10 businesses for 2015, or careers for 2015.
That's
and I
awesome.
think that, it's really worth looking into, because you can do well and do well for others at the same time. And I think it serves, particularly for women, it serves that kind of nurturing quality that we have. And we're naturally very good planners because of our listening and caring. And so it's a great industry, and certainly worth looking into and exploring, and I'd be more than willing and open to talking with anyone who has an interest in looking to see if it's the right fit for them.
Thank you so much for saying that. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, and I hope that our listeners are too, because I think that many of us cluster, you're a financial planner. You only do one thing. You make financial plans, but you just laid out a full spectrum that covers so many different personality types. I think that's awesome to know that those different types of opportunities exist and still allow you to be entrepreneurial. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. So speaking of awesome, as we know, this is our money month, and as part of this, we are giving away a basket of an amazing array of goodies, and one of the goodies that are being given away is a financial plan from Ascension Wealth, Jocelyn's company. So, Jocelyn, tell us, for the ladies who are listening who will be entering to win this basket, what will they receive from Ascension Wealth? What will the winner receive?
It will be a complimentary financial assessment where we, again, equating it to health and fitness. So we're going to take an overall look at your financial situation and give you a nice bird's eye view of where you stand financially. So helping you to get your balance sheet in order, so what do you own, who do you owe, and at the end of the day, what your net worth is, and then working with you to start putting the basics of a plan in place, and of course the ultimate B word, the budget, because
right.
Although we're reluctant to really use that, and sometimes people automatically get defensive when you say that, but it really is very important, and I even say spending plan just to kind of take the sting out of it, but to make sure that we are respecting our budget and living within our means, so that we can begin to save and invest and move toward building a legacy and establishing some wealth in our families and in our communities.
That is really awesome. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for that. And listeners, as you know, at the end of the show, I'll tell you all about how you can enter to win that fabulous prize along with the other goodies that will be included. Thank you so much, Jocelyn.
You're very welcome.
I have 3 questions that I like to ask every guest, and I should say every guest who's a woman. Actually, I ask the men a different question. I'm okay with being sexist in that regard, but the women, you really get the tough questions.
Okay.
So it's called our quick think round. And so it's just 3 questions, no problem. But
Okay.
before we get to those questions, do you have any final words of wisdom or anything that you would like to share with our listeners who may be either interested in becoming a financial planner or looking for a financial planner to serve them?
Well, one, I would just like to thank you for the opportunity to talk to your audience. I always welcome any chance to talk about the business and what I do, but I would really encourage women in particular to get a hold of their financial lives. So using a financial advisor, you don't have to be rich or wealthy to use one. It is really just helping you where you are to get to where you have to go. And don't be afraid, because it really is just a number and a situation, and use that as where you are right now, and then you're making a plan to do better and to do different. I always like to close out seminars that I do, particularly with women, is an African proverb that says, if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate a family, a nation, a country, a community. So our impact is so much more when we have that education, particularly as it relates to our finances. It's so empowering to know that you were able to use your current resources to do what you need to do without having to struggle from paycheck to paycheck, but that you're working in the right direction and you have a plan in place to achieve the financial security and freedom that you're looking for.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I know that you are based in the greater Philadelphia area,
Yes.
which I have to give a shout out. I went to law school in Philly, so I'm very familiar with Philly. It's a great city of brotherly love and sisterly affection.
Sisterly affection.
So tell folks how they can get in touch with you.
You can reach me. My office number is 215-554-3451. And also, if you're interested in information about the Women's Center at the American College, you can go to women'scenter.theamericancollege.edu and find out about a lot of the wonderful things that we're doing to help to increase the number of women financial advisors and leaders in this industry.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Again, everyone who's listening who does not have a pen or paper handy, you can head over to the show notes, herpowerhustle.com/financial plan, and we'll have links to all of those resources, including Jocelyn's phone number. Well, we might not put the phone number on the website, but you heard the phone number. You might have to write that one down. We might not put that one on the website, but it is there. We'll probably put it on. Okay, so now we go into our quick think round. Jocelyn, what is your guilty pleasure?
I would say that it used to be The Young and the Restless. I am a diehard soap opera fan, and I have been rocking with The Young and the Restless for, probably over 30 years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But recently, my viewing pleasure with that has been limited. But so otherwise, I guess you could say it's Scandal and some of the, different, it would be television, some of the television shows. But mainly, if you would ask Kamari, he would say Girl Time, Young and the Restless.
I love it. See, this is why we ask these questions, because it just shows the side of people that you would never see. Okay, so Power Hustle is synonymous with superpower. So what is your power hustle? What is it that you're like, I'm wearing my cape today, this is my power hustle, this is my superpower, this is what I'm great at?
Oh, wow.
Anything.
I don't know if it's really a power, but I guess it's the power to organize.
It's yours. Oh, see, that is.
To organize.
Everyone does not have that.
So, and that's, one of the things when I talk about television shows. So I like to watch Hoarders, Buried Alive. And that's more so because when I see it, I automatically think of ways, well, how can I get this person organized? Now, again, don't ask Kamari, because he's been asking me for years to organize his office, but he won't go through the steps to start. So I have not done that. But I really love, organization. And again, like I said, when I see money that's not in the right order, I immediately, put it in place. And anyone who's been around me, certainly friends that have been over to, to my office or to my home, they will see that I like to keep things in order. That's the Libra in me. That's a very strong tendency, is the balance.
Wow, I love that. All right, here's your last question. Do you have a theme song or mantra that plays in your head as you prepare for something big, like a power move, to go speak, to go into a room? I mean, you're in a male-dominated industry, in a white male-dominated industry. What is it that you say to yourself or play or bump in your car before you head into one of these power move meetings or something like that?
So there would be two songs. One's more recent. So I'm Every Woman.
Chaka Khan or Whitney?
Both, but more so Whitney.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
But they're both very good. Very good.
Yeah,
and then Girls Run the World, Beyonce.
Yes.
So that one is immediate. I started years ago, sort of my own personal life soundtrack. So that's a new addition to it. So anything that, kind of gets you motivated and focused. So those two really will, resonate in my mind.
Love it. Jocelyn, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful time with you. Again, folks, head over to, thank you, Ascension Wealth, and we'll have all of the contact information for Jocelyn on the website, and we look forward to hearing more from Jocelyn as time goes by, and, of course, the lucky winner will have an opportunity to work with you directly with your office. So we're thankful for you for that and being part of our month of money here at Her Power Hustle.
Money is every day, 365, but we're focusing on it in March, even more so.
I'm trying to make you focus on this every month. I see a recurring role coming up here. 15 minutes of money with Jocelyn.
I'd be totally open to that.
I know. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure as well, and you have a great week, Michelle.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye. Welcome back to Her Power Hustle. So excited to have you join us in our month of money. Was that not a great conversation that we just had with Jocelyn Wright about finances, financial planning for entrepreneurs, and, of course, the career of being a financial planner and the diversity of tasks that exist in that career, which I had no idea. So further to our conversation, we are speaking with another amazing woman, Miss Jacquette M. Timmons, and she is a financial behaviorist, which I'm very interested to talk with her about that, who helps people identify the underlying behaviors and beliefs that keep them from reaching their financial goals. She coaches, teaches, speaks, and writes on creative solutions to common financial problems for everyone from middle-class folks to the top 1%. She's the founder of Sterling Investment Management, Inc., and the author of Financial Intimacy, How to Create a Healthy Relationship with Your Money and Your Mate. Jacquette has an MBA in finance and years of private banking experience. Jacquette Timmons, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. I am so delighted to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. You and I go way, way back.
Yes, we do.
With our effervescent selves.
Exactly.
So awesome. It's so awesome to chat with you. So now I have to start at the beginning because there's something that our audience does not know, and actually I didn't even know until I did the research for the show. Tell us where your college journey started, because I had no idea, because I knew you were an MBA in finance, so, I didn't focus on the fact of where you actually started your education. Please tell our audience about that, because I think it's fabulous, and it makes so much sense. It makes absolute sense.
Well, my college journey began at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And I arrived there as a young spring chicken of 16 years old, ready to rock the world of shoe design, and got there, and I didn't even make it through the first semester and realized, oh, shoot, I can't really draw.
And that's kind of a little bit of a prerequisite to being a designer, I take it. Did all of your shoe designs look the same? Every pair of shoes looked the same? Is that what gave you a hint that you couldn't draw?
The little portfolio that I put together to get in, I realized that was not going to help me get through. So we had to go to Plan B.
Okay. What was Plan B, Jacquette?
So actually, it's interesting because Plan B was, all right, since I realized that I can't draw, I still love shoes, I want to stay in the design field, so I'm going to do marketing, and so I did. And, you know, as a part of FIT's curriculum, you had to do a co-op, and so my co-op was at Salvatore Ferragamo, which was an awesome experience. Yeah. So it was really awesome. And I did that actually for about 9 months. And then when that was over, found another part-time job. And this time it was at Bloomingdale's. And it just turns out that that is where I met the woman who would become my mentor. And I had no intentions of going to Wall Street, but she went to Wall Street and she took me with her, and I just fell in love.
I love that.
I totally fell in love.
So tell me again, though, what was her job? What was your job at Bloomingdale that you ended up then going to Wall Street?
So at I was still in undergrad. So I was working part-time, you know, when I wasn't in classes. But she was, what do you call it? Secret shopping, if you will.
Really?
She was the head. She was the head of human resources for all of Estee Lauder companies. And Estee Lauder, as you may or may not know, owns Clinique. It owned Prescriptives. It also owned Aramis. So at the time, it owned Estee Lauder, Clinique, Aramis, and Prescriptives. And now it owns MAC and a couple of other places, or other couple of brands. But so she was secret shopping, and she obviously was observing me unbeknownst to me. And she came up to me and she's like, okay, so what's your plan? And I was like, well, I eventually want to go to grad school, but not immediately. And she said, well, talk to me on Monday. So I went on Monday to her office, and I had a job before I even graduated. So that was fantastic. And then a couple of months later, she was like, all right, I'm going to Bankers Trust. And I thought she was spelling the name wrong because she didn't put an apostrophe between the R and the S. That tells you how much I knew.
Right. That is so funny.
Other than what I read in the paper or saw on the evening news, Wall Street was just really foreign to me. Right. But I got there and I just fell in love with the whole idea of money being, in very similar ways, much like a pair of shoes. I've got to design a financial product. I've got to figure out how am I going to get it in someone's hands. I've got to figure out the back office piece of it, like how do you make this widget work? And I just immediately saw all of those different connections. What I did not immediately see, though, and that took a year, is the psychological and the emotional piece of it. Because I was there when we had the stock market crash. And I saw up close and personal two very, drastically different reactions to that day and to that event. There were some people that if they could have, they would have opened a window and jumped out of it because that's just how devastated they were about not only their own losses, but what they lost for clients. And then there were other people that were really calm. And I didn't have the language that I do today back then, but I just knew something was up. Like there's just something going on here. I haven't quite put my finger on it, but there's something going on here that people would have such starkly different reactions. And then as time went on, what I began to realize was that difference had a lot to do with the psychological and the emotional makeup of people and how that influences how they respond and the choices that they make and why do they do what they do.
And even with respect to other people's money, right? So it's interesting to me because I think many of us think about it from a very personal perspective that, okay, maybe some of the ways that my parents interacted with money wore off on me, and that's how I interact with money in my day-to-day spending. But to be a person in the financial industry and you're working with money, you're saying that you take those emotional behaviors as well into your work. when money is your job. It sounds like you're
Totally. Because just because you cross the threshold doesn't mean that when you cross that threshold you are then a different person on the other side. So, some of your own issues that you bring, some of the own issues that you have about money, you might overcompensate for them in terms of what you do or don't do for your clients. Or even if you're not managing money necessarily from a client perspective, maybe you have a budget or maybe you have P&L responsibilities. And so that could potentially influence how you approach those tasks and the risks that you take.
And tell us P&L responsibilities.
Oh, I'm sorry, profit and loss.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a sales sales capacity, whether you're doing the selling or whether you're a sales manager and you have oversight of other sales managers, anything that requires that, you or your team needs to bring in some new business for the company, that's a P&L responsibility.
Okay. So then tell us then, because this leads into your becoming a financial behaviorist. This is why you now have the language. So expound upon what a financial behaviorist is and what you do in that role with your clients.
Sure. I think money is really all about behavior modification. And so how does that back into a behaviorist is we all have areas of strengths when it comes to our money. We all have a particular style in terms of how we interact with it. And we all have a particular money personality, like how we engage just in life and how that comes to the financial decisions that we make. And so when we back into that influences what we see, what we don't see, the opportunities that we take advantage of, the risks that we avoid, or the risks that we say, okay, I'm ready to do this. And what I find is that so much of the industry and a lot of the conversation when it comes to money management is about the how-tos, X number of steps to save money. These are the things that you need to do to invest. And all of that is important, but it's not important at the sake or at the expense of really understanding your why. And the why stems from your behavior, and that stems from your beliefs, which, I could go deep into that, but you are influenced by so many different things from your family, from what's going on around you culturally, what do you see your peers doing? Like all of that is subconsciously playing out. And so when I say financial behavior, it's helping people to tap into what are your strengths, what's your money style, what's your money personality, what are the things that you do with your money, and how do we make it so that when you combine all of that together, you're actually making choices that benefit you as opposed to choices that don't work so well for you.
Have you always had a good relationship with money personally?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So growing up, my mother was really a stickler for saving. So she may not have had the sophistication to know anything about Wall Street, but she was the woman who would tell me from babysitting money to when I worked at the mall, I had to save 50% of my paycheck.
Wow. That's aggressive.
It was aggressive, but that was like, she's like, you don't have any bills.
So why can't you, right? I'm feeding you. I'm clothing you and housing you. What exactly do you have to spend on? This is true. Good point, Mom. That's funny.
So if only I had continued that practice, after college. So I think I've always had the foundation, but I haven't always practiced it. And I think when I started my own business, I was fortunate enough to have the resources to start my own business. And I probably was a little cocky. And, just had to have my own humbling experiences and learn from that how not to be judgmental of other people and their choices and things of that nature. So I think just like everybody else, it's been an evolution. But I think my starting point was a good one. And I've just had, to make some adjustments along the way. But I think now it's pretty good. I still would like to earn more than I'm earning right now, but, I'm working on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a refrain for all of us. It's pretty much a common refrain for most of us in terms of wanting to earn more or thinking about how to make the most of what we are earning, right? Especially as women entrepreneurs, of which you are one. So talk to us a little bit about, have you seen any particular trends or similarities? Is there a common hurdle that seems to bubble up the most in terms of our behavior and thoughts about money? And specifically, if you can speak maybe to working with women or people of color, are there any commonalities, any common themes that you see come up?
Well, one common theme that I see come up is, for many of us, where first, second, third is really probably a stretch when we talk about either generational wealth or just even having the capacity to have a financial reserve, have some assets to work with. And so I think for those of us that are first and second generation, there can sometimes be an emotional tug of war. Like I'm thinking of a coaching client that I have, and both she and her husband do quite well. She's a doctor, he's a banker, and yet they have a very strong financial responsibility and also a sense of financial obligation to take care of their family members who are not doing so well. So I think one of the trends is you're navigating a new dynamic in terms of level of income, level of assets, and then also the responsibility that comes with taking care of the people that really kind of made the sacrifices, in most cases, for you to have that.
Right. That makes absolute sense. And so talk to us a little bit about that, because you said they're well off, and we could have generational where you're the first generation that may be making six figures in your lineage. But talk to us also sort of about the importance of people of varying socioeconomic backgrounds. In other words, if I'm a woman entrepreneur, I'm listening to this show, and I don't even make six figures yet, why is it important for me to have a financial planner or meet with a financial planner at this stage if I don't really have a lot of money yet?
Because what you do with $1 is what you'll do with $10. It's what you'll do with $100. It's what you do with $1,000, $100,000, $1 million. I think from a mindset standpoint, some of us fall into the trap of saying, well, when I have more, I will behave differently. And the truth of the matter is how you behave with what you have is really a reflection and an indication of how you will behave when you have more. So, money doesn't change who you are. It just amplifies who you are. And in that same vein, it will just amplify your behavior. So if you are a poor saver with $1, you're going to be a poor saver with $1 million, but you're just going to have more of it to be able to mask the ramifications of it.
Wow, that's powerful, Jacquette. Say that again. That's really powerful. I want to make sure. You don't have to say it verbatim. But the spirit of it, I think is powerful. I really want you to say that. I really want to make sure that our listeners hear, because this is huge. Money is huge. This is why we're spending an entire month talking about different aspects of money, spending, saving, raising funds, all of that planning. So, again, I probably now took you off topic completely. But if you remember,
No. And actually, you gave me a point to really amplify. So, the spirit of it is just recognizing that what you do with what you have right now is exactly what you're going to do when you have more. So if you think that when you have more, you're going to automatically change and do something differently, then you're really setting yourself up for failure and you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And when you talk about raising capital, so you have a business and maybe you're in a space where, and when I say a space, an industry space, where going out and getting venture capital or getting angel investing is, something that is available to you. if they are a smart investor, they're going to want to know, how do you manage your personal resources? How have you managed your business resources now? Because getting a sense of what your patterns are currently will give them a little bit of insight as to what you're going to do when they hand over that $100,000 or that $1 million or more.
That's huge. That's really huge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's really important that whether you have 10 cents or 10 million cents, you get a financial plan in place and begin to address some of the issues and the hurdles that you may be facing that you may not even know you have, right?
Yeah, and I think, I'm a big fan of writing things down. Like I'm a huge user of Evernote. I could do a commercial for them. I love Evernote. But at the same time, I am also someone that outlines everything on graph paper. I mean, every single time I go to write a blog post, anytime I write anything, a presentation, my draft is always by hand, pen and paper on graph paper. That's my preference, graph paper. But what I would encourage people to do is to think about, how do I envision myself behaving? What choices do I see myself making? What choices do I see myself being able to make or wanting to make when I have, and whatever that large amount is? So like, say you draw a line, and at the end on the far right-hand side, it's your answers to those questions. And then on the far left-hand side, it's now. That'll give you a sense of, well, what am I doing today? And how is that going to help me close that gap? Or how is that going to hinder me from closing that gap? And then what can I do to make the necessary adjustments? Because I think part of the problem is we're so accustomed to getting a lot of information, but we're not accustomed to figuring out how to convert that into insight. And that's where this simple, quote unquote, exercise can help you convert that information into valuable insight.
That makes absolute sense, and that actually takes us, I don't know if that is part of the financial wheel, but when you and I met, it was an awesome experience because I had the opportunity to see you in action. And we met when I was doing social media covering the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurs Conference last year. And you had a packed to capacity, very large room, and spoke really from the heart to help folks understand money and money choices that we make. And one of the exercises that you took us through was the financial wheel, right? So can you talk a bit about, because I think that feeds into exactly what you were saying about, writing things down and going through that process. Can you talk to us about the financial wheel and why it's important?
Oh, yeah, totally. And thank you for asking, because it's my favorite exercise. It's my signature exercise where everything begins, whether it's a workshop or a coaching engagement.
It made me think, that's for sure.
And part of the reason is to get you to think a little bit differently about what you're doing. But, if we were in a live session, right, and anybody that's listening and I were to ask, what are some of the different things you could do with your money? There would be any multitude of responses. But at the end of the day, fundamentally, there are 4 broad things that you can do with your money: earn it, save it, invest it, and spend it. And if you listen to the way that I said that in the order, I said earn, save, invest, and spend. When I ask people to go through the financial wheel exercise, I actually begin by asking them questions starting with the save bucket. And so we go save, invest, spend, and then we end with earn. And it's a subtle difference, but the reason for beginning the conversation about the financial wheel with earn, but beginning the exercise in terms of answering the questions with save, really kind of highlights the way many of us have been conditioned to think about money. And so for many of us, we have been conditioned that we back all of our financial decisions, save, invest, and spend, based upon what we earn. So I call that living by default. When I think a more engaging, a more vibrant, a more energetic way of living is by design, where you're asking yourself the questions of, how much do I want to save, and why are those numbers important to me? Or how do I want to invest, and expanding the scope of investing beyond the traditional, stocks and bonds, mutual funds, and real estate. How would I spend my money differently if money were not an issue? And however you answer those questions, then end it with, well, what do I need to earn to make that happen? And for 99.9% of us, there's going to be a gap between our current reality and whatever we write down. And instead of that gap being something to, cause people to feel scared or uncomfortable or like, oh, this is never going to happen, I think it's really an invitation to think about, well, what choices then do I need to make differently to make it happen? So it prompts you to have conversations with yourself and with your significant other, if you happen to have one, that you would not otherwise begin to entertain, simply because in the first scenario, there's never really an opportunity to figure out you need to ask those questions.
It's true. Yeah, I've never heard anyone use words like engaging, and I think you use the word dynamic. The adjectives you use to describe our relationships with money, I think, is very telling about your approach and helping people not look at it like how we look at time as well, right? With always from this position of lack. I'm running out of time. I don't have enough money. There's a gap. We got a lot of months left at the end of the money, those kinds of ways of thinking. And so I really appreciate that you bring a very positive attitude to money and help people sort of walk through that process. For folks who are listening, as you know, we have the show notes, which are awesome. I love our show notes because they always give resources and help you to continue down this path that Jacquette has put forth. And to that end, if you go to herpowerhustle.com/financial plan, you will find a link to the financial wheel and to Jacquette's website, and you can really look and you can visualize exactly what she's speaking about. Because like I said, as having gone through the process myself, it's a really, really illuminating way to think about money management, and what your goals are with respect to your life and money. So Jacquette, thanks for making that available to our listeners. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So to speak on the back end, financial stress. Now, you have an awesome blog, which I will also put in the show notes, again, herpowerhustle.com/financial plan. There's one post that you wrote recently that I was just intrigued by, and it's entitled, Financial Stress Doesn't Just Work the Night Shift. So as we are talking about positive ways of thinking about money, the reality is a lot of us have money stress. And so talk to us about, what was your vision for writing that blog post? Tell our listeners a little bit about what it's about, and then really the meat of the matter with regard to financial stress in your life.
So like you said, right, probably all of us are dealing with some degree of financial stress. And simply that's, well, I don't say simply as to minimize anybody's stress, but simply it is the stress is when what you have or what you are experiencing is different than what you want. You want it to be different. And so in dealing with, I read something, and it was about, I'm trying to think what was the inspiration of it. I think I may have read an article that tapped into exploring the relationship between employee productivity and their degree of financial stress. I think that's what because I was researching something for a presentation, and I came across that. And I just really wanted to tap into, well, what causes that stress? And then how do people move beyond it? Because I think part of the time when it comes to stress is we don't admit it. We feel it, but we don't give voice to it. And if you don't give voice to it, then it makes it really, really hard for you to come up with a strategic plan. And then it puts the stress in control as opposed to you being in control. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, and I hope that illuminated it for our listeners as well. I think that makes absolute sense. And that's not how we want to live, especially as creatives. You know, if we're entrepreneurs, we're creatives. We're creating a business. We have to think on a higher level. And if we have stress, you know, in there about financial issues, it's really going to impact our productivity as entrepreneurs. It's not just the folks who are making widgets. It's entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah, and you know, I don't say this to get all woo-woo, but I think that there's a reality to the fact that there's an energetic element to it. So if you are stressed about being able to pay your bills, I think it makes it harder for you to actually close the clients that you need to have in order to pay your bills. Because there's something that they can sense, a sense of desperation or a sense of being unsettled.
Right.
So, you know, even for people, if you find that you're getting to that point, I would say get a side gig that is not mentally taxing, but that allows you to have at least some financial inflow coming in so that you can be relaxed and a little bit more at ease and able to do the things that you need to do creatively to, in fact, be able, you know, to take your business to the next level. And I think also the thing to recognize is that if you are a business, an entrepreneur that has employees, to recognize, because one of the stats that I shared, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but one of the stats that I shared in that was that I think it's about 30 million U.S. workers are worrying about money, and that then, in fact, affects their productivity, and about $7,000 per employee is lost from a productivity standpoint. So if you have a business and your employees are stressed about money, that means that in some way they are not fully engaged and they're not showing up and doing their best and showing their best.
Wow. I mean,
you know, it's one of those cyclical things. So it's like you've got to make sure that you're managing your stress well so that it doesn't hinder your vision and your ability to take your vision to the next level. And then you also have to make sure that your employees are not stressed so that they can be the best employees that they can be. Because, you know, if they're not present, depending upon what kind of work you provide, their lack of presence and their lack of concentration could cost you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of ways to think about that. I mean, it's 360. It's everyone who's involved in the process. It can impact everyone. Yeah, I think that's.
Yep. And then I think the other thing I wanted to just highlight there is, you know, so often we only equate debt as being a cause of financial stress. But financial stress can come from a lot of different things. So if anyone's listening, I would just, you know, humbly suggest that even if you don't have debt, because I encounter this a lot, people will say to me, well, I don't have debt. I don't have any money problems. Well, maybe changing the language might help a little bit.
Right.
And debt isn't the only evidence of having an opportunity to grow financially. Let me put it that way.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's all about the spin, right? I think that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, it matters. It matters because even in the last segment, Jocelyn said, you know, people don't like the word budget. So let's think of a better way, a financial plan, or another way to think about it so that we take the sting out of it. That makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Well, we are winding down our time together. Jacquette, thank you so much. It goes so quickly. I mean, there are so many things that we can touch upon with you, and so I really want to encourage our listeners to go ahead and get in touch with you because you do speak about money from the aspect of both the individual, but as well as being in a couple and financial intimacy and all of those pieces. And I think that's very important that for us as women entrepreneurs who are whole women. I'm very big on whole women. We're not only entrepreneurs. We're not only mommies or daughters or sisters or wives. We're all of these things, and they all have to sort of operate together. So with that being said, if you have one takeaway for our listeners, please share that with us. We'd love to learn more about what you have going on and ways that people can work with you. Let us know, please.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So my takeaway would be to kind of do like an out-of-body observation and check yourself to see if you're focused more on knowing how, if you're focused more on, what are the next steps that I need to take. Again, that's good and necessary, but what you would benefit more from is spending time really understanding why, understanding your money story, understanding what influences that and how it impacts the choices that you're making right now, because those choices will also affect your future. So my takeaway would be focus on knowing why more than even knowing how.
Okay.
So that would be my takeaway.
That's a great
and then in terms of other ways that we could work together, I have a group coaching program called Find Your Financial Sweet Spot.
Love it. Again, with the great language. I love this is the creative in you for sure.
Oh my God! Which is all about, and you were talking, you were also mentioning the emphasis that I have on and focusing on the positive, and I think so often we get beat up enough about what we do wrong.
Right.
So that's why the subtitle for this is where your money strengths, your money style, and your money personality meet for the best results. So it's a group coaching program that really taps into my private banking experience in terms of the way that it's structured and the format that we go through. But at the end of the day, it really is designed to help people figure out, again, what are those things for them and how do they use that to make the best decisions with regards to saving, investing, spending, and earning, and how do you put together your full financial plan, and how do you do it in such a way that it's not complicated in the way that some people think when they hear the term financial plan. So we'll set behavior-based goals, we'll identify your financial strengths, we'll identify what strategy works best for you, because there's no such thing as one size fits all.
Right.
We'll also look at systems and structures and, how do you interact with your money in such a way that it's not only when you have to pay the bills. Like I want, ideally, in the same way when I wrote the book, Financial Intimacy, that I want couples to talk about money as effortlessly as when they're deciding let's order Chinese food. I want people's interaction with money to be that easeful as well. Because it's such a source of angst for people, and I really would love for it not to be that way.
That's awesome. Okay, so folks, you can find all of those links on our website at herpowerhustle.com/financial plan. And so now we go to the quick think round, the 3 final questions for our guest. The first one, yes, exactly. The first one is, what is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, what is my guilty pleasure right now? Dark chocolate every night.
Love it. It's supposed to be good for you, so I don't see the problem. There should be no guilt attached to that, right? I love it. Every night. She said every night. Okay.
Yep, every night.
And so question number 2, power hustle is synonymous with superpower. So what is your power hustle? What is that thing that you take into any boardroom? Because we didn't even touch upon the fact that you're an African-American woman on Wall Street, which we can't even get into. But what is your power hustle? What is your superpower? What is that S on your chest, cape-wearing moment? What is that power that you have, that one power?
I think being comfortable in my own skin.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And final question. Do you have a theme song or a mantra that plays in your head as you prepare for something big, a big power move or something that you're bumping in the car as you're on your way to the airport or on your way, to stand at the front of the room at Black Entrepreneur Conference? Is there a mantra or a song that gets you going?
I'm a house head, so
I love it.
I love that song. I feel it. It's all right.
I love it. I love it. And, of course, we will have that in the show notes because we all need to get boosted up, powered up, and have our own thing song. I love it. I love it. Jacquette Timmons, thank you so much for joining us on Her Power Hustle. I love laughing with you. I love talking with you. And just your effervescence is addicting and contagious. And thank you so much for blessing our listeners.
Oh, my God. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
And me too, and I hope our listeners did too. I love it. I love it. So we will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us for our month of money.
Yay!
I hope you got a lot of information that's helpful to you from those two amazing women, and heard the offer from Jocelyn that she is doing, her company is doing a financial analysis, a free financial analysis, as part of our package for the grand prize winner that will be announced on April 15th, 2015, here on the Her Power Hustle podcast. I think my biggest takeaways from the conversations were that there's a myriad of tasks within the financial services and financial planning industry that can really speak to all different types of personality types. So I thought that was really cool. And I really appreciated the comments that Jocelyn made with regard to mentorship and, seeking out communities and really being sure that you're getting good information to help you along your journey. With regard to Jacquette, I think my biggest takeaway was the relationship that we have with money personally, and I think they both said this, is the relationship that we will have with money professionally. And so it's really important that we stay on top of our money, because money, although not the most important thing in the world, it, as Zig Ziglar would say, ranks right up there with oxygen. I saw a meme this week actually that said money isn't everything, but it definitely can make an emergency a mere inconvenience. So that's why we're doing this month of money and thinking about all the aspects of money and how that can be a benefit to you and your business. So this episode is a little longer than usual, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. I really appreciate you joining. Again, don't forget, head over to iTunes. You can get to herpowerhustle.com/iTunes. And the show notes for today's episode for all of the resources discussed can be found at herpowerhustle.com/financial planning. I look forward to speaking with you next week, and the struggle and the hustle is real this week, let me tell you. Have a great one.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Her Power Hustle podcast, produced and hosted by Michelle Talbert, with voiceover talent by Sean Belton and music by Taman Hade. All of the resources discussed on this episode can be found on the Her Power Hustle website. That's at herpowerhustle.com.